I'm a soils and botany expert with a focus on wetlands. I do wildlife inventories.
But for this job, you didn't do wildlife?
No, I was not asked to do a wildlife
Okay,
inventory.
but based on your testimony prior question, you mentioned that because it's an open cornfield, so assumption is that the wildlife inventory is probably the lowest. Therefore, the heritage database search is sufficient. Is that right?
I wasn't making that implication, no. I did see the natural heritage search. It did not show any tagged species, and I do know from 25 years of experience that cornfields are like Phragmites fields in eastern New Jersey. They carry very little vegetation species other than the crop, and very little wildlife.
Okay, so that's why, based on the whole general impact study, I think the conclusion of this environmental impact report states that the wildlife impact is temporary and permanent disturbance of minimum amount of wildlife habitat. So you agree on that conclusion?
Can I see that?
Sure,
Where are you?
What are you referring to there, please?
that's the environmental impact report you guys all reviewed last year.
And Mr. Torella did not prepare that report, so I do not believe that was prepared by another consultant. Am I correct?
This is not my report.
That's fine, but all the board planning members all reviewed this report, right? Last August timeframe.
The board has reviewed it, and we had our professionals look at it.
Okay. But based on,
I do agree with the minimum amount of vegetation.
but how about wildlife?
I can't imagine, maybe there's some deer there?
Okay, but based on just the search of the heritage database, there's no physical wildlife inventory survey at all performed on this property. Is that true?
That I don't know. I know that I didn't conduct one. And I know that the natural heritage search is done through the state's database that we all paid for.
The
here.
database is only electronic database. I'm talking about physical inventory. Did anyone actually from a consulting firm perform that report? Have they spent a few hours or days on the property to observe what kind of wildlife occur around that surroundings?
I'm sure that you're addressing it.
I'm talking specifically about wildlife inventory. I know about the database. But that's
Has anyone
electronic.
spent time on the property doing a wildlife inventory in person?
I believe the answer is no, as I'm hearing from the applicant. I want to make it clear that the applicant has performed the level of inventory and analysis that was required, and has in fact complied with all the requirements.
I think that's highly based on assumption, is that right? Because it's just the cornfield.
Ma'am, you're now testifying.
What's it?
You're now testifying. Are you testifying as an expert?
No, I'm not. I'm just questioning whether or not
No,
the
you're-
wildlife inventory study should be performed.
They've already testified that they have performed a wildlife study in regard to specifications, requirements from New Jersey Board.
I just want a firm answer about the wildlife inventory study.
Ma'am,
Is this performed?
Ma'am,
Yes.
you asked him questions about what he has testified to and what his expertise is, and if the applicant has someone else who can testify, they will have them testify. If not, that will answer your question. And you're permitted to come for every expert who comes up, every witness, you have the right to ask them questions pertaining to your expertise.
Then I will repeat just one more question for you. I know that I asked you already. Is that to your experience for this job, you didn't perform any physical wildlife inventory study?
I think that's already been asked and answered.
No, I just want to repeat it.
No, please retire.
Thank you.
My name is David Casella. I live at 2 Byron Drive, Lopatcong. You were saying that in cornfields, you really haven't seen any wildlife at all. And yet, out of your mouth, you said there might be some deer. To me, deer are
No, I didn't
wildlife.
say that I didn't see any wildlife there. I said that generally cornfields have very, very low amounts of wildlife.
Generally, but out here, Have you seen deer? Has anyone seen deer? Because I believe there's a deer there.
I
I've
don't think
driven
you can
down
go out
the
in
street.
this parking lot and not see a deer.
Okay, so this is that type of area because it's actually semi-rural. So there are deer, there are probably field mice, there are horses just yards away grazing.
And you're not testifying, you're asking questions. If you have questions, you
I'm
can ask
asking
him.
him if he, did
He's
you
already
look,
testified that he has not done a wildlife study of the property.
can, I asked why nobody's doing that?
Can you ask what?
Why no one's doing a wildlife study and looking at the animals?
You can ask someone else from that party, generally the representative
Because
of
I
the
think
applicant.
everyone here wants a wildlife study.
The answer is fairly simple. Your ordinance doesn't require it.
Correct.
You're not required to do things in ordinance doesn't call for.
As I indicated earlier, we have complied with the requirements of your ordinance. This request that's being made by the member of the public, however, is not one that's required by your ordinance.
If I can clarify, because I think everyone's probably going to be asking the same general questions. The state of New Jersey, the Department of Environmental Protection, in their process of developing regulations governing the protection of wetlands and Category 1 water streams, which everyone has read about in the news for years and years, the purpose of those regulations are to protect the areas between development and sensitive areas, i.e. wetlands and streams. There are tremendous buffers that have been put on these areas. Those areas are preserved to protect wildlife species and to create a transition area, which is why they call them transition areas or buffers, between development and natural, ecologically valuable areas. In this case, we have the highest amount of buffers possible in the state of New Jersey protecting this fantastic ecosystem that we all live in, me, myself included. In this case, there are no wetlands or streams within even half the distance of what the state puts these giant buffers on. So those areas have been preserved for the integrity of wildlife and transition areas. This site doesn't contain any of those.
So there are no buffers?
So there are no buffers on this property, no.
So a deer, a field mice, a stray cat, dog walking through, there's nothing to keep them out.
To keep them out?
Keep them out. They
Well,
walk
then-
right in front of the desk and be harmed.
I guess they could, just as easily as I could walk out into the street. Save the stray cats.
Marty Swim, 4 Byron Avenue. Marty Swim, 4 Byron, Lopatcong.
When you come up, stay real close to that microphone, otherwise people can't hear your question.
Is this okay?
That's good.
Okay, I like cats.
So do I.
To reiterate, the purpose of the buffer zone is to insulate certain areas like that stream from the developed area. That's
That's for the stream buffers, the other one is the wetland buffer, so same thing, yeah. Insulate the wetlands from.
And I missed the map presentation. There's another buffer besides the stream? Or is the stream the only buffer zone of interest?
None of them are actually of interest on this property. They're not anywhere near the property.
Okay.
Streams have a buffer associated with it, and wetlands have a buffer associated with it. None of those items are anywhere near this property. The buffers aren't even anywhere near the property.
Right. So maybe another way to phrase it is, this protects the stream as it's intended to, but nothing else nearby. That's not the intent of the buffer of the stream.
The intent of the buffer of the stream is to create a transition area between development and stream. It protects the core ecosystem of either the wetland or the stream, which is why the streams have a twice the size buffer as an exceptional resource value wetland does. The highest wetland buffer, 150 feet. The highest stream buffer, 300 feet.
In your research into this area, did you look into any previous uses of the area? Or presentations made by the council that might apply, anything in the state of New Jersey?
Well, I'm following state guidelines which govern the protection of wetlands and streams, and townships throughout the state of New Jersey rely on the DEP to provide the guidelines for that, or town meetings would take 3 or 4 months to do. The boards rely on the word of the DEP, which is the permit that we're obtaining called the letter of interpretation. They call it an LOI. And so the board will put a condition upon an application stating that we're going to approve an application as long as we get the LOI and it states accurately what's represented on the property. And that's what we're
So you
obtaining.
confined your research to DEP regs and the property.
Yes.
Are you aware of the township's presentation to the Highlands Water Protection and Planning Council?
No. The site is not located in the Highlands.
The township of Lopatcong disagrees with that. Are you aware of them presenting something to the Highlands Water Protection Council stating that this is an agricultural resource area?
No.
Are you aware that this council, this Lopatcong Council presented to the Highlands Water Protection Council this area being an agricultural priority area?
No.
This one should be easy because it's in your report. Are you aware of this being a wellhead protection area?
I'm not sure if, I know that when I worked on the site across the street, there was discussions about that. I'm always the first person on a job. I'm the guy who gets there before anyone else comes, and my focus is the delineation of freshwater wetlands and the delineation of regulated stream courses. That's my focus, my only focus at a subject property. I obtain DEP approvals for my clients, and I focus on wetlands and stream corridors.
So another way to put that is, you didn't look at the previous environmental report that noted that this is a wellhead protection area.
No, it's not a concern of mine.
Are you aware that this council, this Lopatcong officials presented to the Highlands Water Protection Council that this is a conservation zone?
No.
Are you aware that township officials of Lopatcong presented this area as a critical wildlife habitat?
Nope.
No other questions?
If you were Paul Garibo, if you were aware of those things, would that change anything?
No, because the way the DEP is set up, they have their guidelines pre-established for preserving wetlands, wetland buffers, and streams. And that's what I am enforcing. I'm enforcing the state guidelines that govern the protection of stream corridors and freshwater wetlands. That's the crux of my job.
Okay. I should have put it a different way. It doesn't change anything for you. It might change something for someone else.
Oh, absolutely. And as does all development, but that's not what I'm here for.
Okay. Now, I have another, and I hate to belabor this point about
Go ahead.
the buffers. I'm going to need a buffer pretty soon. There's something that you were talking to Scott about in terms of a regulated stream that may come off like a driveway or a road. So if there's potentially a drainage ditch, say, created in the process of constructing this plant, is that something that we may need to be concerned about in terms of that affecting these wetlands?
No, not at all. Anytime you're doing construction, things, you have improper grading, you have things, it's a construction site. Under the Freshwater Wetlands Protection Act, any sort of ponded area that gets created through excavation is allowed to be finished grade. When you're submitting plans for a subdivision like this, there's going to be construction plans, there's going to be a proposal of what is going to be built. In those plans, there's going to be as-built drawings, there's going to be proposed final grades of the site, and at the end of the project, the township inspector is going to go to the property and is going to look at the site the way it was constructed and makes sure that it complies to what was approved.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we've brought this to death at this point. Would you like to proceed?
Sorry, I just have another question. Really good. So, excuse me. Jerry Harkin, 9 Foxwood Lane, Phillipsburg, New Jersey. Oh, sorry, Lopatcong. Physical inventory. Although it looked like adequate time was not taken to do that, and you said, I think you said, did you or did you not take physical inventory?
Wildlife inventory?
Fish, yes.
No.
Excuse me, sir.
No.
You did not,
Did I do a physical wildlife inventory? No,
Right.
I did not.
but you did spend time on the site.
Lots of time, yes.
While you were there, did you observe any wildlife?
Not at all, not one single bit. I mean, if a squirrel ran in front of me, I'm not going to note it. That's, I'm not sure if, I don't remember seeing any wildlife species.
But isn't that your job to do that?
No, it's not. It's not even close to my job. If I was being hired to do a wildlife inventory, absolutely. And what I do in a wildlife inventory is I transect the property, just like I do with wetlands. And I start, there's our access again, and here's the site. I start up here and I zigzag, dun, 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 all across the entire property and cover every bit of the property. And that's how I determine if there are wetlands or streams on the property. I start with the highest elevation with my topo map and I work down. And in that same time, I would do that same grid system if I was doing a wildlife inventory.
Getting away from...
When I was there, it was corn as well. In that photograph, it's not corn. And I did walk through that cornfield, and it's not fun. But I did do it because you can have wetland areas in cornfields, so I have to walk through them.
Do you have a map of the designated wetland areas or the area that's preferred that we keep talking about?
Sir, he has already testified that there are no wetlands on the property in question for this hearing.
What other things do wetland scientists do?
That's what we do. We delineate wetlands, and some of them do wildlife inventories, vegetative analysis, which is another area of expertise of mine. I deal with septic systems as well, as they relate to freshwater wetlands.
When you do this, do you take any samples?
Yes, I took a lot of samples, soil samples.
What type of samples did you take?
I have a Dutch mud auger that takes
Excuse me, what is that?
it's a handheld auger that in the ground. It takes about a 2.5-inch diameter of soil. And I generally will go down to the B horizon of the soil, which is anywhere from 4 to 25 inches deep. And all of that data is provided in my wetland report that has been at the Township of Lopatcong since December 1st, 2011.
And why do we do that?
Pardon?
Why do you do that?
There are 3 criteria for determining if wetlands occur on the subject property. You have to have wetland soils, hydric soils they call it, and that's what I'm looking for in my core samples to determine if there are hydric or wetland soils. The second parameter is wetland or hydrophytic vegetation, so I'm listing vegetative species that I found on the site. And also the third parameter is hydrology, actual physical water. All of those are needed for an area to be classified as a wetland.
What time of the year did you do the study?
I did this study August 5th, 2011. That was when the official study happened, and I was also on that site probably 2 or 3 weeks prior to that, and maybe a month or so after that. So July, August, September. The main study was done in August 5th.
Do you think that was the most appropriate time to do a wetland study in August?
Oh, they're all appropriate. All 12 months out of the year. Soils are soils. It doesn't matter if it's summer or winter. Soils have characteristics indicative of wetlands or they don't. So as long as I can get through the ice, I can do it in the winter. Vegetation, I don't care when I do that. Most people can't identify a tree without the leaves. I can identify it, so it doesn't matter to me what time of year. It's the regulations are the regulations and the criteria is the same.
And the only reason why I asked that question because the rainfall in August is pretty minimum.
It has nothing to do with rainfall at all. It's sort of to the layman, I think a lot of people say that, hey, don't come out this week, it rained all week, because they don't want wetlands, or if they do want wetlands, they come out when it rains. It's irrelevant. Rainfall is absolutely 100% irrelevant to whether an area is classified as a wetland or not. That's why the state has really strict criteria. Positive wetland hydrology, positive hydrophytic soils, and just general hydrology of the site, streams, drainage ways.
What type of plants would you normally find in a wetland area if this was a wetland area?
Sir, it's already been determined that there are no wetlands on this property in question. One, if you want a general knowledge of how to take soil samples and what's included, I suggest you take a course at one of the local colleges.
Mr. You can work for me for a couple of days.
Sure, I'd love to. And the point well taken, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate your comment. And thank you very much.
This will be the last question for this witness.
Good evening, planning board members. Lewis, L-O-U-I-S, Bartolomeo, C-A-R-T-A-B-O-N-A, 1119 Fifth Avenue, Alpha, New Jersey. Mr. Terrell?
Terrell.
Lewis, hi.
Pleasure.
Hi, pleasure. Thank you for all your testimony. I really admire what you do, being a soils and botany expert. I'm a naturalist, and I gleaned a lot about what you did, but I just want to make sure the reason that you're here was just to identify within the boundary lines of this site that there were no wetlands, and how far it was away from this class 1 area of stream, because you said you were making sure the state guidelines were being followed.
Right. I was hired to determine if wetlands and or streams were not only present on the site, but directly adjacent to the site. So if you have a 300-foot buffer on the stream like we have now, I looked 300 feet off-site to determine if there were any streams around that boundary, and that also encompassed the off-site wetland boundary, which was smaller than the stream boundary. So if the buffers were 50 feet, I would look 50 feet off-site. Because if they were 60 feet off-site, their 50-foot buffer would fall 10 feet from the property line, and it's insignificant. So it's directly adjacent to and on the property. And the stream, I approximated being somewhere between 650 and 850 feet away from the property.
Okay, thank you for repeating that. You stated at 8:38 p.m., as soon as we get a letter of interpretation. I wasn't sure if that means that there's some determination that you still have to make.
I submit my application of all my findings to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. They review my file, then they physically drive to the subject property, and they walk it. And they say, okay, Jeff said there's no wetlands on this property, and they walk the whole property. And if they found wetlands on the property, they would say, Jeff, you missed a spot, delineate it, and then we'll reissue the map.
I'm sure they won't do
No.
that. But the
then
process isn't over until they come in and verify.
Yes, and as the chairman said, this application is contingent upon DEP approvals, all of them, not just
I may have
wetlands.
missed the beginning of your testimony
Okay.
because I went to the other site. It took me a while to find this one.
Okay.
And just wanted to clarify one thing. In your work with the soils and the botany, and the stream especially, are you only worried about surface water? Because you mentioned water runs downhill, we all know that, but Are you familiar with the underground geological structure underneath the land and how that may affect water flow once it percolates?
Yes, but that's way deeper subterranean than what we're dealing with in freshwater wetlands.
Do you know if it's true if that's on a karst field, which everyone should know is
Yeah.
limestone?
I'm not a geologist. I have a pretty good understanding of geology, but I haven't done any geological research on this now.
Would you say, one last question, the impact on the streams, if it was limestone and water percolated through the soil to that level that it would possibly run downhill if the fractures of the rock ran down towards the stream and anything that percolated would actually empty out into the stream past the buffer zone?
I can say that the state of New Jersey has given the Lopatcong Creek the highest classification that they can possibly give it, and it has the biggest buffer in the state of New Jersey, and that buffer is nowhere near our site. So if the DEP felt that that stream needed an 8,000 foot buffer, trust me, they'd put it on.
Thank you very much, Simon.
All right.
Thank you very much. Mr. Meehan, would you like to continue?
I just have one quick question, if it's make just one.
Well,
My name is Maureen McCabe, 11 Foxwood Lane in Lopatcong. Maureen McCabe, 11 Foxwood Lane in Lopatcong. And I just have one quick question. I know your report is to determine if there are wetlands on the property, if there are any buffers that any development will impact. However, does your report take into account that this proposed site is higher up than a nearby stream, and that any potential possible runoff from any work done on the site will flow downhill and reach that buffer zone, and then potentially reach that stream that goes into the Delaware?
None of my reports or investigations are directly related to any proposed activities on the site.
So, but in
I wouldn't be influenced that way. I'm there to determine if freshwater wetlands and riparian buffers and flood hazard zones exist on properties, whether they're planning on building a home for orphans or a nuclear power plant. I'm enforcing state guidelines governing the protection of wetlands.
ma'am, are you concerned about water being collected on the surface and running off down the stream and being collected by the stream?
yes, that's correct.
Okay, that would be addressed later on with a different expert.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll allow the last person, I'm sorry.
My name is Brian Mann, 371 Stonehenge Drive. It seems like we have a lot of valid questions. I'm just wondering if we can identify the other key witnesses, because I think he's given his testimony, and I think it's pretty valid. I think if we knew exactly who else would be testifying, the audience could actually categorize their questions that way. And I think we could actually proceed, because I'd like to hear everything.
Well, the witnesses were, I think, one of the...
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, why don't you re-identify who you plan on having come up to testify?
Not at all, absolutely. And in the spirit of that full disclosure for the benefit of the public, I would offer, Mr. Chairman and Council, if there's any objector or other interested party who plans to present testimony of an expert, that perhaps that might be disclosed as well for the purposes of the public. But that being said, we intend to offer as a witness a managerial executive of the company, a professional architect, a professional engineer, an air quality expert, a professional planner, and a traffic engineer.
Thank you.
Are they in the audience? That's what I was trying to identify.
They're all here.
And again, I don't know if there's any other interested party that intends to offer expert testimony, perhaps this gentleman would be curious to know that as well. And as would we, Fred.
Anyone else going to be testifying as an expert other than those presented by the applicant?
I don't know yet. I got to hear the case.
No, I'm not worried about that. Do you have anybody here tonight?
That's going to testify? I doubt it.
All right. All right.
That's the first witness.
All right. No, I'm just, I'm thinking in terms, I don't know, Mr. Bennett, if, for instance, if you have a wetlands expert, this may be the time to do that, or do you want to just go on with your, why don't we go on with your case? Just go on with your case.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Well, I think there's one more witness.
Are you an expert witness?
I could be an expert witness, yes.
Are you representing somebody?
Just the public.
Do you have a specific member of the public you're representing?
Basically, the local residents of Background Township.
Oh, no.
Have you been hired by those people to represent them?
No, I haven't.
Okay, thank
Yes, he has. All right, Mr. Chairman, with that, we'd like to call our second witness, Mr. Mark Zagoda.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know what your preference is in terms of the exhibits, if you want them tilted towards you, tilted towards the audience. We'll try and split the difference. I don't know.
More toward the audience.
I'm more toward the audience, we're fairly familiar with the plant site.
And I have to swear in your next expert.
About the expert, can I bring the question?
When we were at the council meeting, we were told that there was money put aside in escrow by the applicant for experts representing the community. Do we have, is that a correct statement?
Yes.
Have you provided any experts to
Yes.
testify on our behalf?
Yes.
Are they here?
Yes.
Will they be testifying?
They will not be testifying as
Will they
for the applicant.
testify on our behalf?
They will
We're
be
here
out.
The agenda for the meeting will be directed by the chairman, and the expert for the planning board is going to be, for the town that is going to be testifying. He will testify in due course.
But he will not be testifying.
I'm not sure whether he's going to be testifying tonight or not. Raise your right hand, please.
David Corrado, C-O-R-R.
Mark, you ready to swear?
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, state your name for the record, spell your last name.
Mark Zagoda, Z-G-O-D-A. Thank you. Mr. Zagoda, what is your occupation?
I'm a licensed architect.
What are your qualifications, education, and experience?
Bachelor of Architecture from Syracuse University, licensed in New Jersey and Pennsylvania since 1992, a member in good standing of the American Institute of Architects, and presented before numerous planning boards and boards of adjustment.
Have you, and in testifying before boards of adjustment and planning boards, have you been accepted as an expert in the field of architecture?
Yes, I have.
Have you testified and been accepted as an expert in the field of architecture in court proceedings?
Yes, I have.
Have you appeared before this board and been accepted as an expert in the field of architecture?
Yes, I have.
With that, Mr. Chairman, unless there's any further voir dire, I'd like to offer Mr. Zagoda as an expert in the field of architecture.
You so accepted.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zagoda, you prepared the architectural plans that were submitted as a part of this application, is that correct?
That's correct.
In addition, you've also brought with you some exhibits this evening that perhaps you should mark at this time, and mark them, starting with A2, correct, counsel? Starting with A2, as you mark them and date them, if you would just briefly, for the purposes of the record, explain what each exhibit is.
Okay, these were presented in September. We're re-entering them? Yes. Okay. Okay, the first one will be drawing titled EX-A1. We'll make that exhibit A2. And that is the proposed office/laboratory buildings. That is plans and sections. The next exhibit is exhibit A3, which is the proposed storage building plans and elevations. Also dated 9/29/11.
Thank you, Mr. Zagoda. The application that was submitted by the applicant contains a number of structures, many of which were designed by you. Would you, for the benefit of the public and the board, review the architecture and design features of those structures?
Yes, first what I want to clarify, you can all hear me right in the back. I want to clarify my role, which is two buildings that are really subservient to the whole asphalt plant. They're just support buildings. You'll hear later testimony, the real heart of the plant is the asphalt manufacturing. My buildings are actually relatively smaller just in support of the overall process. One of them, on the site plan here, is a proposed office and laboratory building.
We need to have that exhibit marked, I guess that would be A4. And A4 is, if you like, it's a colorized version of the site plan?
Yeah, that's an overall site plan. The date is 9/9/11, and that's prepared by Fernando.
Okay, pardon the interruption, if you go ahead and referring that to A4.
Okay. Oh, revised on 2/22/12. Okay, continue? Okay, so again, just to clarify, you're going to hear later testimony with the whole plan. My portion is the task of the office building and a storage building. The two buildings that are in support of the overall facility. The office building is, as it's conforming in the allowable area, the height of the building, and the use. Also, the same is true with the storage building, also conforming area, height, and use for that zone. Now, the function, as I mentioned, are support spaces. The office building, again, this is actually more of a kind of a flagship operation for my client. Typically, on an asphalt plant, we have a control house, which is basically a trailer with a little glass box on the top that has all the switches to control everything. In this case, they wanted to make it more of a flagship for their operations, where this thing was incorporated into a two-story office building that actually would be for the managerial aspects of the business, bring clients in for sales, and there's also involved with that a small laboratory space for the testing of the material, which is part of this whole process, which you'll hear later, okay? So with that three-function space, I'll just briefly describe how this office building works. Here is on this board, it's 2 stories. The yellow spaces, if you can see it, that's really the office suite. The blue on the second level is this control house, which is basically a little glass box, like I said, it oversees the entire plant. That's why it's located right here, kind of in the middle of everything, since it has to control everything. And the red on the first floor is the small laboratory where these materials are tested. Okay, architecturally, yes, it's an industrial zone. We're not going to build the Taj Mahal, but by the same token, we didn't want to build something ugly for the clients or to be good neighbors for this township. So some of the neat features of the office building is a two-story glass atrium with a stairway. The offices wrap around that. The front canopy itself, I mean, by code, I have to cover the front entry and the handicap ramp so that it's safe. So we decided on actually a high-tech looking mast with steel cables, kind of almost like a suspension bridge look, so that, you know, it's a little different, a little high-tech, and when people come to the site and say, hey, this is nice, I would like to work with these people. And again, you can see the glass box on the top with its own entrance for the man in charge or woman in charge of the whole plant, so they can easily get up and down to get onto the plant. Okay, so that's for the office building. Secondly, the storage building. Again, you know, you can picture what it really wants to be is just a big metal building to store equipment in there. But again, we wanted to dress it up. It's got a nice decorative concrete block base. There's plenty of natural light. Again, there's a clear story on it. There's lots of windows that are operable for sliders. A lot of ventilation for anyone in there, any of the workers. Also the front entry, I mean, it's got large 25-foot overhead doors for some of the taller equipment that can be coming here and stored. Rather than keeping it outside and being an eyesore on the plant, we can hide in this building. And I had a little fun with it. If you come a little closer, it's got a little, almost like the Amish X you see underneath the peak of the roof. There's one of the windows turned on its side. So again, even though it's a storage, a maintenance storage building, the idea is at least to make it more attractive, and it's, you know, there's a lot of nice features. There's plenty of light and air in there. Likewise with the office building, lots of natural light. As far as what's in this storage building, the general storage area, this building is 95 by 40 feet, and there's just a small office in there. There's a locker, a changing area, and a small bathroom. And that's really about it. And then, you know, really in summation, again, we're trying to bring this up a level what a typical asphalt plant would be. Again, this is my task, just working on these two support buildings. You'll go more above it about other things. And the civil engineer will testify. You can see on this, it's really nicely screened with a lot of landscaping throughout this whole site. So again, you know, architecturally, this is almost an abstraction. Everything is two-dimensional. It's just right in front of the building. But you know, our job again, make it pleasing buildings for the township and for the climate.
Thank you, Mr. Zagota. We have nothing else on direct for this witness.
Thank you. Are there any members of the board that would like to question this witness? Seeing none, I'll open it to the public. Again, please, I'll remind you, point-specific questions to ask of this witness.
I'll remind everybody, please try to stay close to that microphone because it's difficult to hear back there unless you're right on top of it. Thank you.
Louis Cardone again. Mr. Sedgwick? Just was wondering, what is the height of the building before the glass box control box?
Before the glass box, well, actually we're allowed 45 feet in this zone. The building itself, to the top of the box, is going to be about 29 feet, 27 to 29 feet. The storage building is 44 feet tall, because there might be some tall equipment there, but the ordinance is 45 feet. So again, we try to stay within the parameters of your township desires.
Okay, I just was wondering about the ordinance because I was reviewing the Lopatcong ordinances and I didn't see the height of 45 being allowed in that zone. And you had made the comments that you made the decision, you know, to make this building appropriate. And I was just wondering, when did you review the zone before you made the structure, when you planned it out? And when did you find out it was, the actual ordinance was 45 feet?
Oh, as part of before I even start the actual design, I have to read the ordinance. There's no sense in me proposing a building that's going to be higher than that if we don't want to get the variance. See, the nice thing with that 45 feet, to answer your question, I did the ordinance research first before I did my schematic design. There's a proper way to do it.
And when did you do that approximately?
The initial design of this goes back to, this is dated September. I don't know offhand, probably my due diligence was probably done sometime July, August, September, if I can really.
Fair enough.
You know, there's a lot of start and stop with, projects of this nature.
The earliest would have been July, August, or September.
I don't know offhand. I'm giving you a ballpark. I mean,
And would you know, or maybe I can ask the board, where the ordinance that 45-foot limitation is found? Was that section?
it's probably listed, it might even be right on one of the civil engineering aspects. He does a lot of the due diligence, and that was coordinated with one of our other consultants initially. Off the top of my head, no, I do not know what ordinance
Is it
section
one of the
it is.
experts slated to appear? I can ask
Yeah,
you
the
that.
planner or the civil engineer does a lot of that due diligence. I'm in charge of making beautiful buildings.
One last question. You mentioned that the exhibit was revised in 22211. That was the, more or less the
Site plan, yeah, this one.
back there. Was it revised just by dating it, or was it revised where you changed things around?
You'll have to direct that to the civil engineer who will be testifying.
Okay. I was just curious because the board chairman or someone had said that exhibits were supposed to be available to the public for 10 days, and if it was just revised today, I was just curious about that. Thank you.
You'll have to ask him.
Any further questions of this witness?
Eric Johnson, Lopatcong, 361 Stonehenge Drive. I'm sure I get a better picture of what you're doing. You mentioned, I use your words, the flagship for the company. My impression of that, what does that mean? This is our corporate headquarters? This is their main branch?
The owners can better describe that. What I'm saying is typically when you see an asphalt plant, you don't have an office building like this, you don't have a storage building like that. There's some elements that are beyond the typical maintenance of this asphalt plant. If they were better to describe
Right,
it.
so maybe the question will come better.
Yes.
With another expert saying, well, do we plan on increasing the number of clients going to this plant? Are we going to increase production on the numbers that we're assuming this plant's going to produce start getting higher because this is the flagship? That would be a different expert.
Understood, yes. I'd have to-
Okay, I'll read the rest of that one then. Okay, thank you.
I'm Martin Swim, 4 Byron Drive, Logan. Just a couple simple questions, kind of what you answered before, but I just wanted some more specifics. You were asked when you completed or when you reviewed the zoning requirements. But my question is, when were you commissioned to do this job? You were hired at some date. Does anybody in your human resources or anybody know that wrong?
Can I ask the significance for that?
I'm trying to relate his hiring date to the plans, the zoning.
We object to the question, it's irrelevant.
I tend to agree, it's irrelevant. The right to say he was hired by the group.
In as much as you're an expert, how long did it take you to do the plans?
To what extent are you saying due to the plan?
From whatever strange date you were hired to the drawings being good enough to use them?
Well, recall that these are schematic in nature. These are not something you're going to build from or get construction documents or get accurate bids from a contractor. The idea of this is this stage of the project to get approval from this board is the overall character of the structure, to see if you need any variances for the area, their height, or the use. And that's what these drawings display.
My question stands. How long did it take you to do them?
On and off, in a design process, was probably months.
Months. So that's more than one.
Yes.
In your work, as you were commissioned for this, do these buildings specifically apply to Lopat, or are they general in nature? What was the purpose of the schematic drawings?
I was hired to do the asphalt production plant in Lopatcong.
And how many asphalt plant-related buildings have you done?
I have done none of them. I have done other industrial buildings, but this is the only asphalt plant. It's a pretty rare bird, you know.
Okay, thank you.
My wife says I should keep my mouth shut.
Neil Affair, Sheriff, Archer and Griner. I just have one question. Neil Affair, Sheriff of Archer and Griner. Thank you.
Who do you represent, or where do you live?
The precast concrete next door, the applicant's site. I just have one question. Did you, when you prepared your building plans, your architect plans, was that prepared before the ordinance was drafted, before they commenced?
Which
drafting?
ordinance?
The ordinance, the earliest ordinance in Lopatcong for the conditional use for this project.
I don't know offhand, I don't know the date of that. If you give me the date, I can see when these were. I suppose so. These are dated September of 2011, if you say when that ordinance was.
Well, what I'll do is I will ask, I might ask the attorney, but I want to know whether the plans were prepared prior to the ordinance. Was the ordinance drafted in light of the plans that you prepared? Are you aware?
I didn't hear it.
Were the plans, was the ordinance drafted based on the plans you prepared?
I think that's irrelevant. Even if these were designed 5 years ago, they meet the ordinance and they meet the needs of what the client needs for this facility, and they are conforming with each ordinance.
But are you aware of whether your plans were submitted to anyone in consideration of the ordinance and the parameters of that conditional use ordinance?
Did your plans predate the ordinance?
If you know, that's not, can the court reporter read the question back, the most recent question?
But I will ask the question, did the plans predate the ordinance?
No, that was not the question. The question was.
Okay, then I'll answer.
Could we have the question read back by the court reporter?
Are you aware of the question to anyone vis-a-vis? I don't know.
They were?
I don't know what the ordinance date is. There's two ordinances. What is the date you're identifying?
But are you aware whether the ordinance that was drafted was based on your drawings?
Objection, the question is vague. Which ordinance is she referring to?
The initial ordinance.
What is
That's
the,
still too big.
what is the date of that? My drawings are dated September 29th.
Jonathan is on behalf of
For the word you out of order, I'm going to go to the point where we are already under litigation concerning the ordinances here. At this point, I would like to make no comment, I would want not the board or any of the experts or the testimony of this litigant is not involved in that lawsuit. So he can't answer it.
With all due
We do
respect,
want to answer it under advice of counsel.
This witness said it's irrelevant. He doesn't have the right to say it's irrelevant. His counsel has the right to say it's irrelevant.
Are you saying that
It's
it's irrelevant?
Sir, would you identify yourself and who do you represent?
Jonathan Udro on behalf of Greenwich Township, I'm just trying to move
Are you
things.
here on behalf of Greenwich Township?
Yes,
Or because when you first identified yourself earlier this evening, you were only here as an interested party?
Yeah, I am an attorney at law, state of New Jersey. I represent the Township of Greenwich, who has retained me, the mayor and council, to appear as an interested party to find out the facts surrounding the application. The township has some concerns, I will express them. But if we keep on just spinning our wheels on this stuff, it's gonna take, 2 or 3 days. I'm hoping that I could just ask him to answer her question to keep things rolling.
You can ask him, if he wants to answer, he can answer. If he doesn't want to answer, it's irrelevant, it's irrelevant.
Are you aware of who the plans were submitted to after you prepared it?
My client, when I got started.
Anyone else you're aware that these plans were submitted to?
That's the answer to your question. When you said that you did due diligence and you reviewed the ordinance to prepare your plans, what date did you review the ordinance to do your due diligence? Yeah, what date did you do your due diligence? You said you did due diligence, you reviewed the plans, you reviewed the ordinance before you prepared the plans. What date did you review the
That
ordinance?
question was actually asked and answered.
That's correct. Ask and answer. Before reporter, please read back the answer because I don't remember it.
The answer was he didn't recall.
You don't recall when you reviewed the ordinance? Is that your testimony that you don't recall when you reviewed the ordinance before you prepared the plan? Yes, sir, it's on the record.
It had to be the date, the drawings were September, so it was September and then prior to that, of 2011.
What's the earliest date on drawings you've done for this project? Why do you keep on looking at the attorney for the answer?
Because I'm an architect.
You're an architect, you prepared those plans, correct?
Correct.
Okay, do you know the earliest date you prepared a set of plans for this project?
Yeah, it was probably, I started with the schematic design, this is in September, the final drawings had to be, the conceptuals had to be July, August of 11.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone have any other questions of this witness?
Yes, I do. Anna Haven.
His whole report reporter. Repeat.
Anna Haven, 814 Rugby in Lopatcong. Are you saying that you were hired in July or August of 2011?
I'd have to look at the exact date of my contract.
Are you able to do that right now?
I'm sorry?
Are you able to do that right now?
I don't want to take the time up until I find it.
It seems to me that the attorneys are holding your hand about this date. Why is that?
Because I don't know why this is such an important issue when I'm compliant with both ordinances with my architectural design.
It's not your concern as to why, it's your concern to answer the question.
I'm sorry?
As to why is not your concern is to answer the question. The
You asked
date.
him why?
He's stating that he doesn't know why people are asking him about the date. I'm telling him that it's not his concern why I'm asking about the date. It's his concern to tell me the date.
Mr. Chairman, I don't wish to belabor the point. but I wish to make a continuing objection to the relevance of questions as to when the drawings I wish to make a continuing objection as to relevance as to when the plans were drawn. The point of inquiry here is whether or not the plans conform with the ordinance that's on the books, the ordinance under which this application has been made. Any of these other sidebar questions are A, irrelevant, and B, subversive attempts to somehow mine for information related to litigation that's unrelated to this applicant, that this applicant is not a party to.
Excuse me, but you were the one who mentioned full disclosure. So that's what I'm going for, just as a citizen of the town. Full disclosure about the
Yes, I agree with you. We're moving out of order, please.
How do I object to the objection? I'm not allowed to by you?
Pardon?
Who doesn't allow me to object to the objection?
Who doesn't allow you?
The chairman of the board is allowed to control the agenda.
Okay.
Any further questions to this?
Hi, Jerry Harmon again, Land Foxwood. Could you tell me what the bulk ratio is on the building? Bulk ratio, FAR.
Yes, the civil engineer will testify to that. But we're way under with what the site can support.
Well, as an architect, and as a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey, aren't you familiar with the FAR?
Yes, I am, but I'm not one of
Sir, he's already answered the question. The civil engineer will testify to the FAR.
What is the fire rating on this building?
The fire rating?
Yeah.
It falls under type 5 construction. It's going to be wood frame construction based on the area being less than 9,000 square feet. Of course, inherently, the storage building is going to be the metal vents, you know. But this can actually, there's no fire rating, you know, really required.
What is the occupancy load of the building?
I'd have to do a quick calc. I mean, that's something I get into during the construction documents once we're approved with the schematic phase.